Exactly 1 year ago today, Bradford City announced Clarke Oduor as 23-24 first summer signing under Mark Hughes, which went on to be one of our worst ever summer transfer windows. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below. I mean, I thought about it, and I think the 18-19 probably is worth, but maybe there's a video in that somewhere down the line. But it was Clarke Oduor first signed. We're going to rank the window and see how the signings have done, because I think we all can acknowledge the reason why we didn't go up next last season like we should have. Maybe you have different opinions on it, but let me know your thoughts. For me, it was down to the recruitment in the summer transfer window. Now, I did a video, you feel free to go back and watch it if you want, where I ranked the summer transfer window at the end of it. And I haven't watched it because I can't be bothered watching myself. It's not great, but I don't know how it compares to how I'm going to rank them today, but I'm not going to go back and watch that because it's a bit boring. But yeah, but we'll see how it does. So, like I said, 6th of June last year, we signed Clarke Oduor, which is that's in itself is poor. The fact that by 10 days' time, when England play Serbia's first game, I think it is, whoever it is, we'd only made 2 signings by then, and we've already made 4, and we've already released a player and done our return list. You know, one track already. Whereas last summer we were so slow to get started, and you know, Clarke Oduor, if I were going to judge him, shown glimpses, because he has shown glimpses. I think in August, first came in, I think people were comparing him to Scott Banks. And you know, he couldn't sign on his left foot, looked a tricky player, good movement, good bit of flair. He had something about him, a good bit of technicality, but we've seen later on as well. But then that period after, from probably September to November, when he played, we didn't see anywhere near enough from Clarke Oduor, but very little as well. And then he had the spell in December, January time where I thought it was absolutely shocking. And you know, people were calling him out in that September, November period where I didn't see it as much. Whereas, you know, that sort of Christmas time, I thought he looked like he was a bit disinterested. He was jogging around. He looked quite lethargic, and he just didn't look like he were putting 100% in. And in terms of creativity, they wanted a lot out of him. And that bit of flair he was overcomplicating his play. And then it got reported that Graham Alexander, he admitted it as well, that he had a word with Clarke Oduor, spoke down to him, didn't spoke down to him, well, he might have done, but I didn't mean to say that. He spoke with him, had a little chat with him, and you could see instantly then that February period, he had a purple patch, and he looked a different player, simplified his game. You know, really tricky player to play against. Technically, I thought that he was our best player at that time, and so obviously that season, if I were to give, you know, who were the most technical player, I'd probably say Clarke Oduor was. And then he struggled to get back into a side for whatever reason. He became a bit of an impact player off the bench, and he did contribute somewhat off the bench, a bit of energy, a bit of trickery, somewhat different. But he couldn't quite get into a team. He got given a 3-year deal. There's time for him to still develop, and it'll be interesting to see how he plays out those 3 years. So, like I said earlier, 16th of June we signed Ash Taylor. Wow, what a great signing this was. We knew before when he signed. We got told it by Northampton fans, Walsall fans. He wasn't too bad at Kilmarnock, but you could see his style of play. That's why we sort of wrote him off as fans, which I don't think you should ever do. But you've got to be able to open your eyes on the player. You've got to be able to criticise a player for what you see, and did it suit the style of play, and Ash Taylor just didn't. He didn't have the pace to play in that back line. He didn't have the ball playing ability to play for Mark Hughes' side. The composure on the ball, he couldn't pick a pass. It was just a physical centre back who would suit certain sides, but never suited us, and didn't suit Alexander's. And overall, he was just an absolute terrible signing, and one of the worst we've made in recent years. I mean, in terms of his pace, he was probably one of the slowest players I've seen in recent years. I can't think of a slower player than Ash Taylor. He was like a sloth in quicksand. You know, he was absolutely. It was slow as it was, but you know, he was shocking. He was shocking, and you know, the Notts County game, the Swindon game. You know, there's many examples of Ash Taylor not having good performances for Bradford City. I wish him the very best of luck over in Gibraltar. I think he's playing somewhere over there, Magpie FC. So hopefully, you know, hopefully he sees 2 of them and not 1. Yeah, that's not a good joke. But well, maybe someone laughed. You know, you might get one laugh. But you know, if he sees one, he better salute it. 20th of June, we signed Kevin McDonald. Now, it's harsh putting him in, nothing to write home about. But I can't say anything other. Maybe shown glimpses he could have snuck in there. But I just think that at the time, I probably would have said, not impressed. You know, he's 35 at the time. I mean, he's 37 in November, I think, or 38 in November, Kevin McDonald. And as I said, he's an experienced player. You know, there's positives, and there was positives. So, you know, the highs were really high for Kevin McDonald. That Newport game was one of the best midfield performances I've seen. You know, that goal for Tulloch, the pass, the way to pass, to pick the pass. You know, I've watched that goal so many times, and it was a meaningless goal against Newport. It was absolutely obscene for him to do that. So obviously that moment, but then there's other games earlier on in the season as well where you could tell he looked off the pace. And as the season drew on and the pitch dug up, and he became a bit of a backup to Smallwood, and he just found himself in the pecking order. I think we just knew that it was time that Kevin McDonald maybe isn't at this level. But in terms of his ability, in terms of his mindset, in terms of his technique and his ability, you can tell he's played at the highest level because he can see things that no other player can. And you know, like I said numerous times, he was a luxury player. So it would have been a brilliant signing if he were younger, but you can't keep saying that. And he just didn't have the legs to play midfield. So overall, a managerial period as well obviously came at a tricky time. But overall, if you take the side away that he had the managerial period, you know, he played at a higher level, I think we would have been saying he was nothing really to write home about, and we should have been putting in a different calibre of player to compete with Smallwood. One day later, we signed Alex Pattison. Now, this signing sort of came about with Williams rejecting us and going to Gillingham, the hotel scenario and situation and debacle that were going on with that. So I do feel like you've got to, when he came in, you've got to acknowledge the fact that he was what we all thought was an unbelievable signing, the best signing in League Two. You've got to think about that spell in August. You know, the goals he was scoring, the volume of goals he was as well. For a midfielder, it wasn't known for Bradford City player to be putting up those numbers and to be hitting the areas he was. And the energy, the tenacity, the work rate to track back as well and play as the 8. It was all action, and honestly, if we had him all last season, it would have been a great player to watch, and he would have put in the numbers that we would have needed to get out of the division, and I do believe that. But then you have to think about the injuries. It derailed him, so I don't really know where to put him. I mean, you can put nothing to write home about, but for what we thought we were going to get, what we saw when he was available, which was a very short amount of time, I'm going to put him in shown glimpses. And it's all about next season. 26th of June, my favourite player signed for the football club in Tyler Smith. Need I say no more? No composure. Missed sitter after sitter. We were a poacher who can't poach. He was pretty useless, was Tyler Smith, unfortunately. And he is in the shocking category because he was shocking at times. But then no matter what happens with Tyler Smith, I always remember that goal at Barrow. You know, the moment that it caused, the belief, the optimism, the composure, funnily enough, to him to have scored that in a big moment was an unbelievable moment, and I'll always remember that. Like I say, next season he's got on loan. Can he turn it around? Absolutely. He's got a 3-year deal, 2 more years. There's still time for him to do that, but I just feel like, you know, the chances he missed, you can't be missing those chances, and he missed far too many of them. 2 days later, all our business were on this week, pretty much. Oduor signed on loan. Now, this one was probably the hardest out of the lot, to be honest with you. He was poor. I think it would be fair to put him in poor. I think, obviously, the last 7 games, when he played as that right-sided centre-back, I mean, I don't think he did against Grimsby, did he? But he was basically a right-sided centre-back for the rest of the season, and he finished really strong there. He had a poor game against Walsall as well, so I think you can only say that he had 6 good games, which as a right-back who came into a football club to replace Brad Halliday, it's poor recruitment. Now, I think you've got to acknowledge the contract situation, you've got to acknowledge the age, what they've contributed as a player, but you've got to look on the recruitment side of it and why we signed a player. And I think, well, obviously he started right-sided centre-back against Crawley and got sent off in his first game there, and looked a bit shaky. Obviously he got sent off. Looked naive in that game. But I feel like you've got to judge him because he came in as a right wing-back to compete with Brad Halliday, and he was nowhere near that. And he was signed under Mark Hughes, and Mark Hughes didn't look, he played him right-sided centre-back, right wing-back, he played him on the right wing, I think he did, and in defence midfield then, towards his last couple of games, and it was almost like he didn't know enough about him, and I like the fact that he's versatile, and I think he can play those roles, but I think the recruitment-wise, it got lumbered on us, and I don't think we're ever confident about it. As always, if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments down below. I haven't replied to as many comments as I want to recently, so I will get back to those at some point, but I always read them. It's the best part about doing it. Get to be privileged enough to have people who want to share their opinions, and I always love reading them. So if you disagree, do let me know in the comments down below. On the 18th of June, we signed Lewis Richards. Now, I'm not gonna. I think he's just an okay player. I think he's as bang average as you're gonna get. I think he's not great going forward, and he's not great defensively, but he's not poor at either of them. So he's such a tricky player, to be honest, to talk about, Lewis Richards. So he's just nothing to write home about. He's never going to be getting any headlines, neither good or bad. He hasn't developed over the season, and he's massively unfit. He can't play a full 90 minutes. So there's a lot of negatives. There's a lot of positives as well, and maybe I'm focused on those. So I do just think, very middle of the road is Lewis Richards, and it's an area we need to improve again. 28th of August, 10 days later, we signed Adam Wilson. Again, when you look at the timings of them, and the fact that Mark Hughes said before the Richards signing that we're definitely done here, I'm happy with the squad we've got, which was confusing in itself because the signings were brought in, none of them are in the top tier, and the two in the shown glimpses haven't even been that good and barely contributed to our good runs this season. And Pattison's barely contributed at all. I'm sure that'll be a controversial one to have him so high up. So when you go through it, you realise how poor the recruitment was. But Wilson, it comes across as another panic signing because coming in so late, we were changing formations, we went without an out wingers. I don't think he got a chance under Hughes. Alexander didn't give him a chance at all. He throws him out. There's a player in there, but he's not a poor player at all. I think he's a fantastic player, and one we'd love to see at Bradford City. Direct, pacey winger, tricky, wants to take players on, wants to play football the exciting and entertaining way that we know it has. But the system doesn't suit him, and the recruitment is poor because neither managers give him a chance. And like I said, his age suits him because he can be developed. But I just hope we don't rush into making a decision on him because there's 100% a player in there. And I think I haven't heard anyone say Adam Wilson is poor, or anyone say Adam Wilson, there's not a player in there. I think we all would love to see much more of him, but I just don't think we're going to, and it would go down as a poor bit of recruitment. Deadline day, we saw two panic signings, as if you were ever going to see a panic signing like these. I mean, we've signed some terrible deadline day players in time, but we had to look quickly with him and Afoka. Now, they're both shocking signings for the recruitment. I think Afoka was a really poor player, to be honest with you, when I saw him. Didn't look like he had much confidence, didn't want to take players on, didn't look to have enough quality either. So yeah, I was really disappointed with Afoka whenever I saw him, and I always wanted a lot more. And then Rayan Tulloch, he was someone who massively impressed me when I saw him. Newport was a brilliant game for him, and he had a couple of really good opportunities off the bench where he came on and changed games with his electric pace and direct flair. And I've heard from other fans, I don't like saying it because it's not right. I don't feel comfortable ever saying stuff like this, but attitude problem, and I can only think of that being a problem for him. Didn't really get a chance when he stepped up to Shrewsbury, which I thought were odd signing. But yeah, it was panic and rushed business, and neither player got a good enough chance to ever show what they could showcase, and I think Tulloch out the two deserve more of a chance. And then the 6th of September, I don't think you're going to see a loan signing coming this late, although we all were anticipating it. And he gets the GOAT signing because he was the best signing of the window. I wanted to put someone up there, and I can't say he had a bad game. JT, I thought he was absolutely rock solid. He had great physicality, he had a good jump on him and frame, so he was really good aerially, which is a surprise to someone who's so fast and so athletic. Really composed on the ball, overlapped. Possibly our best centre back. I love Matty Platt and how well he did and how consistent he was, and he just gets it over the amount of games he played, to be honest with you, and how important he was to our successful back line. But if we didn't have Oduor who could step in, we wouldn't have finished the season so strongly if Tomkinson wasn't there either, because he offered something different that no one else could in that back line. And he will move up to League One next season, no doubt about it, if not Championship, because I think he's that good. And he was an absolute brilliant signing for us. You look at the squad on the last day of the season, there was only one of those players who started, and that was Oduor, and that shows exactly what you need to see about how poor that summer window was for us. And I'm confident if we didn't sign any of those players, we'd got playoffs. I think we'd have got playoffs with the squad we kept, because we wasted too much time. We had too many players playing who weren't nowhere near the level. This is why I always talk about, last point now, this is why experience is key. Because you look at those players, Tyler Smith, inexperienced and young, everywhere he played, didn't really get given a chance. We took a risk on him, didn't work out. Afoka barely played in the EFL, didn't work out, was really poor when he got given an opportunity. Same goes with Tulloch, although looked promising when he got given an opportunity. Oduor only looked good at the back end of the season when we found his position, but again, inexperienced player where he didn't know his best position, so we had to try and find that for him, which I never agree with. Adam Wilson barely got a kick because of how inexperienced he was. Lewis Richards, Kevin McDonald, look, you could tell he had the ability, but his legs are gone, so he was too old of a player, if you could say, or if you had a younger player with him, it would have worked out a lot better. But it's poor recruitment because we didn't have a younger player with him. It was Smallwood. Oduor, inexperienced player, not really had much game time. He's had a bumpy start to his season. Next season, I think he'd be stronger, but I don't think he'd get given that chance. Pattison, you can excuse that with injuries, and Tomkinson, that's the exception to the rule. That's only one, and there's only two experienced players in there, and one of them were better. So that's why this summer we're signing experienced players, we're signing winners, similar to what we did 22-23, and I'm more optimistic with that because they're more proven, and you can't go too far wrong with proven players. I think I've exposed how poor the transfer window was from last season. Is it the worst one we've ever had? Who's accountable for it? Is it Stephen Gent or is it Mark Hughes? Because I think they always put the blame on each other. I think because they say we're a collective, we come together on transfers, so it allows anyone to be blamed and everyone to be blamed. And I think it is probably on everyone, to be honest with you, because final word goes to Sparks. Gent has scouted all these players, and Mark Hughes has the final word on it. And a lot of these players didn't suit his system, and he should have been wiser to that. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know if you disagree with me. Let me know if you agree with me in the comments down below. Like the video if you didn't go on to do so. Subscribe if you're new. On the road to 450 subscribers now. We're only 6 away. All support is massively appreciated. Have a good one.